Tonight, we travel quietly into another time, a world lit only by fire and candle, where the air is thick with smoke and silence. There are no engines, no hum of electricity, no distant glow of screens, only the low murmur of life trying to endure itself. It is the century of plagues and punishments, where illness drifts through the air unseen and faith is stronger than medicine. Every sound carries weight. The creak of wood, the toll of a bell, the soft shuffle of bare feet across a dirt floor. The year is far behind us now, somewhere between memory and myth. Villages rise from mud and timber, fields stretch under grey skies. Every morning begins not with alarm clocks, but with the cry of crows and the echo of prayer. People live close to the land, to hunger, to one another. The day belongs to labor, and the night belongs to waiting. The smell of smoke never leaves your clothes. The cold seeps through the walls. Time itself moves slower, marked by seasons, by harvests, by the rhythm of survival. This is a world without comfort.
The bed is straw, the blanket wool, the air always damp.
But it is also a world of quiet endurance, of hands that know the weight of soil, of hearts that find peace in the sound of rain. So as you settle deeper into the calm of this night, let the noise of the present fade away. Listen to the stillness of centuries. Let the past move gently around you. The Middle Ages begin, not with fanfare or light, but with the soft breath of survival in the dark. Morning in the Middle Ages. The year is 1325. Morning comes not with alarms or the hum of machines, but with the faint toll of a bell echoing across wet fields. The sound drifts through mist and cold air, spreading like breath over the thatched roofs of a small medieval village. It is the first sound of the day, and in its slow rhythm, the world begins to move. Inside a one-room wooden hut, you wake slowly. There is no rush here, only the steady awareness of your body rising from sleep. Your bed is a rough bundle of straw bound loosely in cloth, smelling of earth and of the barn floor it once covered. The straw pricks at your skin through the thin fabric. It rustles faintly when you turn, a dry whisper against the heavy stillness of dawn. The blanket above you is made of coarse wool.
It has gathered dust, smoke, and the smell of last winter's fire.
It is thick, heavy, and faintly damp, but it keeps the cold away just enough for sleep to hold through the night. When your eyes open, light is scarce. Only a few pale strands seep through the cracks in the wooden walls. The room remains mostly grey, filled with the soft haze of smoke from the hearth that burned low through the night. The smoke has mixed with the scent of animals, with hay, and with the faint sourness of bodies that have not bathed for many days. It is the smell of home, dense, human, unfiltered by distance or polish.
Around you, the room begins to stir.
Someone coughs.
The child turns in the corner, wrapped in another blanket.
A hen clucks quietly from her wooden box near the wall. The sound of a goat shifting on the straw floor fills the air with the faint scrape of hooves. You share this space with them all. Your family, your animals, and the small, hidden life of insects that live between the floorboards. It is not strange, and it is simply how life is lived. The warmth of many bodies keeps the night from freezing, and privacy is a luxury no one imagines to exist. You take a slow breath.
The air is cold and damp.
It smells of wood, of smoke, of wool, and of life. Your breath leaves a faint trace in the air before fading away. Outside, the bell continues, its rhythm unchanged. It marks not only the time, but the presence of the church, the great stone heart of the village visible from every hill. It calls for prayer, but it also calls for work, for life to begin again, exactly as it did yesterday. You rise carefully from the bed. The straw sighs beneath you, releasing a small puff of dust that dances in the dim light. The floor beneath your feet is cold, a mix of packed earth and rough boards. Sometimes it is wet from the rain that leaks through the roof. Sometimes it is crusted with dry mud or something left behind by the chickens that wander inside when the wind grows harsh. The soles of your feet touch it and accept it.
There is no disgust, only familiarity.
You have walked this floor since childhood. It belongs to you as much as the air you breathe. In one corner of the room stands the hearth, the center of warmth, of food, of light. It is made of rough stones blackened with years of smoke. The fire has almost died, leaving a few faint red coals buried beneath the ashes. Someone bends over it, blows gently, and watches a spark glow again. The tiny crackle is the first voice of the day. Soon it will be fed with kindling, and a thin line of warmth will spread slowly through the room. But for now it is only a whisper of heat, enough to promise comfort later. The sounds of morning are small but constant. The low murmur of voices, the shifting of animals, the rhythmic clank of a pot being moved near the fire. A baby cries softly. A dog shakes its fur near the door. Outside you can hear the faraway noise of a rooster, then another answering from the next field. The village is awakening, not in haste, but with the slow grace of habit. Every life here follows the same circle, waking, working, eating, sleeping, and waking again. No one questions it, for it is the rhythm that keeps the world together. You sit by the edge of the bed and pull on your tunic, woolen, stiff, smelling faintly of smoke and rain. It is the same one you wore yesterday and the day before, and likely the week before that. Clothing is not changed daily. It is worn until it must be mended or replaced. The fabric scratches the skin, but the body grows used to it. You tie a belt around your waist, leather worn smooth from years of use. Then you wrap a cloth around your shoulders to guard against the chill. Each movement is slow and practical. Nothing here is rushed, for rushing changes nothing.
The first task is light.
Someone pushes open the wooden door, and a line of pale dawn spills into the room. It reveals dust, floating in the air like tiny stars. The light touches the straw, the rough beams of the ceiling, and the gentle curve of the faces that share your home. The room brightens to a soft brown glow. Outside, the fields wait, wide, empty, quiet. The sky is pale grey with the promise of another cold morning. You step outside for a moment. The air is sharp and clean after the heaviness of the hut. You can see your breath. The ground beneath you is damp, still holding last night's rain. Smoke rises slowly from the neighbouring roofs, blending into the fog that hangs low across the fields. The only sounds are distant. A dog barking, a bell echoing again, the faint creak of a cartwheel on the muddy road. The world feels older than memory. Each breath carries the scent of soil and wood smoke. The village seems almost asleep, even as it begins to move. In the corner of your yard stands a wooden barrel filled with rainwater. Its surface is thinly iced over. You break the film gently with your hand, feeling the cold bite against your skin. This water will serve for washing, for cooking, for every need. There is no well nearby, no pipes, only what the sky gives. You scoop a little into a wooden bowl and splash it over your face. It is shockingly cold, but it wakes you more than any modern coffee ever could. You wipe your face with a rough cloth. The cold lingers pleasantly, sharp but honest. Behind the hut, a small fire begins to burn. Your family tends to the morning meal. The firewood crackles. A pot of pottage, thick with yesterday's grains and roots, is set above the flames. The smell of cooking fills the air, earthy, simple, familiar. You sit quietly and watch the smoke curl upward. It moves slowly, graceful, almost alive. Someone hands you a piece of bread, rough and dark from rye flour. It is hard and dense, but you soak it in the warm broth, and it softens enough to chew. The flavor is plain but comforting. You eat without hurry. Food is not for pleasure here, it is for strength, and strength is always needed. The day will soon lead to work, in the fields, the sheds, the gardens, or along the narrow path that winds toward the river. The village depends on rhythm and on repetition. Men and women carry buckets, tools, and baskets. Children gather twigs or chase hens back into their pens. No one is idle and no one is in command. Life is a collective act of endurance.
Inside the hut, the light grows stronger.
A shaft of sunlight pierces through a gap in the wall, painting a golden stripe on the dirt floor. Dust motes dance in the beam like tiny living things. The goat nudges at your leg seeking scraps. You scratch its head absently. The animal's warmth is real, grounding, immediate. The rhythm of breathing, of fire crackling, of quiet motion fills the space with a gentle order. Everything belongs exactly where it is. The earth beneath their feet is soft and uneven, still holding water from the rain. The air smells of clay and grass. Birds rise suddenly from the hedges, scatter and settle again farther off. The world feels simple, not in comfort, but in certainty. There is one sun, one sky, one rhythm. It is the same for everyone. Farther down the road, the blacksmith's hammer begins to strike. The sound rings through the valley, steady as a heartbeat. It joins the bells, the bleating of goats, the laughter of children chasing one another across the mud.
Every sound is a note in the same long song.
It is not loud, not chaotic, only constant. This is what morning feels like here. Slow, full, inevitable. You pause to watch the village wake. Chickens pick through the dirt for seed.
Smoke rises from every chimney, drifting toward the same grey sky.
The thatched roofs glisten with dew. The path between the houses is narrow, lined with puddles that mirror the sky. Everywhere there is motion. Quiet, repetitive, purposeful. The world has no hurry, yet nothing stops. You begin to walk toward the fields, wooden rake in hand. Each step leaves a shallow print in the wet soil. The sun finally breaks through the mist. It does not shine brightly, but the light spreads gently across the horizon, turning the fog into silver. You feel its faint warmth on your face. It softens the edges of the morning, makes the air less cruel. You walk past hedges where spiders have spun their webs, tiny beads of dew glistening like jewels. The beauty is unspoken, unnoticed by those who live within it. It simply exists, as part of the same quiet design as hunger, cold, and breath. As you reach the field, the soil stretches wide before you.
Dark, damp, freshly turned.
You pause and look back toward the village, a scatter of roofs, smoke curling upward, a bell still faintly ringing. This is the entire world you know. Every birth, every death, every prayer takes place within the reach of that sound. Beyond it lies only forest, river, and sky. And yet, within this small circle, life continues endlessly. You begin to work. The hoe strikes the earth with a steady rhythm. The soil gives off the smell of rain and roots. Hands grow rough, shoulders tighten, but the movement brings warmth. The sun climbs higher, spreading thin light over the land. You hear distant voices calling, laughter somewhere near the path, the lowing of cattle being driven toward pasture. These are the sounds that mark the passing of the morning. Hours move slowly, marked by labor and by breath.
There is no clock, no count of minutes.
The bell will sound again at noon, and only then will you stop. Until that time, you work quietly, methodically, without thought of change. The horizon remains the same. The rhythm of the day remains unbroken, and within it, there is a peace, not joy, but steadiness, the calm acceptance of what is. The morning of the Middle Ages is not loud or fast. It is a tapestry of repetition, of soft sounds and simple gestures.
A life measured not in moments, but in seasons.
It is a world without distraction, without haste, and without illusion of control. You breathe the air, touch the earth, feel the slow pulse of time. Nothing more is required. And so the morning continues, gentle, grey, and quiet. The bell fades into distance. The smoke rises and blends with the clouds. The fields stretch wide and silent beneath the growing light. In this stillness, you feel the shape of another life, slower, rougher, yet deeply human. The Middle Ages are not gone. They sleep quietly beneath every stone, every breath, every rhythm that carries us forward. And as the sun rises higher, the day unfolds exactly as it has for centuries. Calm, patient, and eternal. The daily routine. The morning light spreads slowly across the village. It is thin, pale, and uncertain. The kind of light that feels more like memory than day. Mist hangs above the fields, softening every edge, every sound. From the small huts scattered along the narrow street, smoke begins to rise. The air smells of ash, damp soil, and the faint sweetness of burning wood.
You move quietly through the stillness.
The animals are already awake. A soft bleating from the goats, the flutter of hens outside the door, the steady rhythm of hooves shifting in straw. There are no clocks to tell you the time. You simply know that it is morning because the world says so. The bell, the light, the slow return of sound. Nature calls as it always does, and so you step behind the house. There, half hidden by the fence, sits the bucket. Wooden, cracked, and darkened by years of use. It waits patiently, part of the routine no one speaks about, yet everyone shares. When it is full, someone will carry it down the narrow path to the street. There, with a brief warning shout, the contents are thrown out and join the rest. The waste of the whole village, running together in shallow gutters beside the road.
The smell is constant, familiar, woven into the air itself.
It is not pleasant, but it is simply life. No one expects it to be different. A small stream runs behind the last row of cottages. Once it might have been clear, but now it carries the color of the village. Brown, cloudy, filled with what people discard. Children still play beside it. Dogs drink from it. The current moves gently, indifferent to what it carries. From time to time, someone fills a bucket anyway, hoping the water near the surface might still be usable for washing or for feeding animals. You do not drink from it, you know better.
The old ones tell stories of sickness carried by water, of fevers that burn through families without mercy.
So instead, the village drinks beer, thin, weak, and safe. Breakfast waits by the hearth. The fire has been coaxed back to life, its flames flickering low and steady. A blackened pot hangs above it, filled with a thick mixture of grains, roots, and whatever greens were left from yesterday. This is pottage, the meal of every morning and every night. It has been simmering for hours, perhaps days, growing richer only by repetition. It is warm in name, simple in taste. You ladle it into a wooden bowl and sit on the low bench near the wall. The steam drifts upward, carrying the scent of barley and smoke. Beside the bowl rests a piece of bread, dark and hard, baked several days ago. The crust is dense and rough against your fingers. You dip it into the pottage until it softens, then take small bites. The flavor is quiet, earth, grain, salt, and a trace of wood smoke. It fills the stomach without excitement, without surprise. You eat slowly because there is no reason to hurry. The day ahead will not change whether you finish soon or late. A cup of small beer stands beside you, pale, cloudy, barely stronger than water. It tastes faintly of sour grain and yeast, but it is clean, and that is enough. The water cannot be trusted.
Every household brews its own weak ale made from barley and boiled with care. It is the drink of all ages, from child to elder.
It quenches thirst, provides a little comfort, and keeps illness at bay. In the dim light, you sip slowly, letting the warmth settle in your chest. It is a modest pleasure, but one that belongs to every morning. Around you, the room fills with quiet movement. Someone stirs the fire. Someone else braids her hair. The baby, awake now, makes small sounds that echo softly against the walls. A man ties his boots. Another sharpens a simple knife against the edge of a stone. These are not chores but rituals. Gestures repeated so often that they become part of the air itself. The rhythm of life is set not by choice, but by need. The children eat quickly, then slip outside to help with the animals. The hens are released from their boxes, and they scatter into the yard, scratching at the damp soil for insects. A cow moos from the barn, waiting to be milked. The sound is low and steady, blending with the faint clatter of wooden pails. From another hut nearby, the same noises rise, repeated, mirrored, multiplied. Each home performs the same routine, and the village becomes a quiet orchestra of survival. The street is narrow, made of dirt that turns to mud whenever it rains. In the center runs a small ditch, the same path where waste flows from house to house. A woman walks along it carefully, carrying her bucket of refuse. She calls out a warning in a tired voice, empties it, and moves on. A few dogs follow her, curious. Behind her, a man pushes a small cart filled with hay, heading toward the fields. His boots leave deep prints in the mud, prints that will soon be washed away by rain or covered by more. Everything here is temporary, and yet it lasts. Inside the homes, the fires burn lower. Breakfast ends. The bowls are rinsed with a small trickle of water, then placed upside down on the table to dry. The pot remains on the hearth. It will be reheated at midday and again at dusk. The same food will carry the family through the day. In this world, nothing is wasted and little is expected. Satisfaction lies not in flavor or abundance, but in enough. Enough to walk, to work, to last until evening. As the room empties, quiet returns. Only the soft crackle of the fire remains and the whisper of wind pressing against the walls. You sit for a moment longer, letting the warmth touch your hands. The light from the doorway glows faintly on the floor, where dust and straw mingle. This small pause is the closest thing to peace the day allows. You breathe in the smell of ash, of grain, of damp wood. Then you stand, stretch slowly, and prepare to leave. Outside, the world has grown lighter. The fog is lifting, revealing the shapes of cottages, fences, and distant fields. Children chase each other along the path, their laughter soft and short-lived, before fading into the wider silence. A rooster crows again, though the sun is already climbing. The air carries the mixed scent of smoke and manure, heavy, real, unchanging. You adjust your cloak and begin walking.
The mud pulls gently at your boots.
Somewhere ahead, the sound of another bell echoes faintly across the valley. The rhythm of this life is plain but certain. Every task has its place. Every movement connects to another. There is no hurry, no distraction. Only the steady line of existence drawn from dawn to dusk again and again. Even hunger has its schedule, and even weariness has its time. In this simplicity, there is an order that holds everything together. The body feels it, a quiet, grounded rhythm beneath the skin. Each breath finds its place within the air. Each step its weight upon the soil. The world moves with you, not against you. And as you walk toward the day's work, the last taste of pottage lingers on your tongue. Earth, grain, and smoke. Enough to keep the body moving, enough to remind you that you belong to this place, this rhythm, this age. The day stretches ahead, long and familiar. The fields wait.
The tools are ready.
And so you walk quietly into the heart of the Middle Ages, a world of labor, repetition, and quiet endurance. The routine is not a burden. It is the thread that holds life together, one morning at a time. Clothes, teeth, and labor. Morning deepens across the village. The light, still pale and grey, stretches softly across the damp fields and low cottages. Inside your home, the fire glows faintly, breathing warmth into the cold air. It is time to dress, not for style, not for comfort, but for endurance. Your clothes wait folded at the edge of the bed. A tunic of coarse wool, woven thick to block the wind, heavy with moisture from the damp night air. The fabric scratches against your hands as you lift it. It smells of smoke and sweat, of work and weather. When you pull it over your head, the wool clings slightly to your skin, rough and uneven. Every fiber seems to remember the sheep from which it came. It is warm enough, but it carries the story of labor, of spinning, weaving, dyeing, all done by hand, all done slowly. You tie a simple cord around your waist to hold it close. Over your shoulders, you drape a cloak, darker in color, thicker in weight. It has been patched many times. Each patch is sewn with uneven stitches, but each one tells a quiet truth. That fabric is precious, that nothing is wasted, that mending is a part of life. Your boots, made of leather darkened by age and soil, fit stiffly. The laces are rough cords of hemp. When it rains, the boots grow heavy. When it is dry, they crack at the seams, but they protect you just enough to keep you moving. You run your hand across the tunic and feel its texture, harsh, stubborn, alive. It is not soft. It was never meant to be. Clothes are not decoration. They are survival. The color is muted, a dull brown that matches the soil, the wood, and the smoke. Bright colors belong to the wealthy, to priests, to those who never kneel in mud. For most, the world is made of earth tones, the palette of labor. Bathing is rare. Water is too precious, and warmth too fleeting.
To wash fully means to risk the cold that creeps into the bones.
So people wash their hands, their faces, perhaps their feet, and nothing more. Soap exists, but it is costly. A mixture of animal fat and ash, harsh on the skin. A small piece might last a family through the year. Most rely on the smoke from the hearth to cleanse the air, and on time itself to carry away the smell. The scent of life, of sweat, smoke, and soil, becomes the natural perfume of the age. You scratch gently at your arm. Fleas and lice are constant companions. They live in the folds of wool and the seams of blankets, and no one escapes them. Children, elders, all endure their presence with quiet acceptance. At night, you can hear them faintly, the soft rustle in straw, the whisper of tiny motion beneath the skin.
It is not horror, it is simply part of living.
Each morning you brush the cloth, shake the bed, and begin again. In the dim light you reach for a small wooden comb. It has lost some of its teeth, but it still serves. You drag it slowly through your hair, removing knots and dust. The motion is steady, rhythmic, almost meditative. There is no mirror here, no reflection to compare or judge. Only the feel of the comb, the pull of the hair, the quiet act of preparation. Your teeth ache faintly, as they do most days. The dull pain sits deep in the jaw, constant but familiar. There are no dentists, no medicine, no simple relief. Teeth rot early in life, worn by coarse bread and the grit of stone from hand-ground flour. A blackened tooth may stay for years before falling out on its own. Some chew herbs or rinse with wine when they can, but the ache remains a companion like the fleas, unwelcome but accepted. Toothless smiles are common. No one hides them. The body changes as it must, and life continues. By now the house is fully awake. The smell of fire mixes with the smell of damp wool and cooked grain. A child laughs briefly, then coughs.
Someone tightens the strap on a wooden bucket.
A woman adjusts her headscarf, wraps it twice, and pins it in place. Outside, a rooster crows again. The day has begun its steady rhythm. You step outside and feel the air press cool against your face. The fog is lifting, but the fields are still wrapped in silence. The ground is soft from last night's rain. Mud clings to your boots with each step, pulling slightly, as if to remind you where you belong. The horizon glows faintly gold, though the sun is hidden. behind thick clouds. In the shed near the edge of the yard, wooden tools wait: hoe, rake, spade, scythe.
Their handles are smooth from years of use.
Each one bears the shape of the hands that have held it. Iron is scarce, so tools are repaired and reused for generations. The wood carries oil, sweat, and memory.
You choose one and test its weight in your palm.
It feels solid, familiar, almost like an extension of your arm. Labor begins not with thought, but with movement. You walk to the fields, following the path carved by countless feet before yours. The soil stretches wide, dark and glistening. It smells of life. Wet, heavy, endless. Birds stir among the hedges. Far away, other figures move slowly, bent toward the ground.
You join them without a word.
There is no need for speech. Everyone knows the rhythm. The first strike of the hoe meets the earth with a deep sound. Dull, heavy, grounding. Then another and another. Soon the pattern takes over. Lift, strike, turn, breathe. The mind grows still. There is no room for worry here. No space for wondering what comes next.
Only the task, the motion, the weight of the body meeting the resistance of the land.
The wool tunic grows damp with sweat.
The air warms slightly as the day rises.
You wipe your forehead with the back of your sleeve. The cloth is rough, but it catches the moisture well. A few strands of hair cling to your skin. The wind moves gently through the open space, carrying the sound of crows and distant bells. Hours pass unnoticed. The body learns its rhythm and stays within it. The soil shifts beneath your tools. Your hands grow sore, the skin along your palms thick with callus. Every so often you pause, lean on the handle, and breathe. The breath is deep, full of dust and air and quiet. You look up and see the horizon, a long line of brown and grey stretching beyond sight. It is not beauty that you see, but belonging. This land is both burden and home. Around you, others move in the same pace. A woman gathers sticks for fuel. 2 children chase a stray chicken near the edge of the field. A man repairs the fence with twine and patience. The sounds of work blend into one another. The scrape of wood, the thud of soil, the low hum of voices.
It is not noise, it is the sound of life continuing. When the body grows tired, you stop for a short rest.
You sit on a fallen log, drink a small mouthful of beer from a leather flask, and chew a piece of bread saved from morning. The taste is plain but steady. The sun sits higher now, soft light breaking through the grey. For a moment, the world feels wide and slow. You close your eyes and listen. Wind moves through the grass. Somewhere, water flows over stone. The earth breathes, and so do you. Soon it is time to work again. You rise, stretch your shoulders, and lift the tool once more. The body obeys, weary but certain. You know every motion, every step, every weight. The hours ahead will pass in sameness, but sameness is what keeps the world whole. From sunrise to sunset, the pattern holds. Work, rest, work again. The muscles ache, the back stiffens, the hands stain with soil. Yet within the labor there is a quiet peace, the peace of doing what must be done. The mind stays still, emptied by repetition. Thoughts fade into the rhythm of breath and motion. You do not plan, you do not dream. You simply move with the day as your parents did, as their parents did, before them. And when evening finally comes, the clothes will still cling to your skin, damp and heavy, smelling of effort and earth. You will untie your belt, set down your tools, and feel the slow release of the body. The ache will remain, but it will not trouble you. It is the price of living, and it is familiar. The wool will scratch again when you lie down, the fleas will return, the teeth will ache faintly in the dark. And yet, within that roughness, life continues quietly. This is the rhythm of the Middle Ages. To wear what keeps you warm, to bear what keeps you alive, to work until the light fades, and then to rest until it returns. No questions, no choices, only the steady pulse of existence and the soft, eternal sound of hands against the earth. Weather and water. The seasons in the Middle Ages do not arrive quietly. They come as they wish, with wind, with rain, with heat, with ice, and people accept them as one accepts the turning of the earth. There is no calendar on the wall, no forecast from a voice unseen, only the signs that the body learns, the weight of the air, the scent of the wind, the sound of the animals before a storm. Winter begins early and leaves late. It arrives like a shadow creeping across the land until the fields lose their color. The sky hangs low and grey for weeks, sometimes for months.
The breath turns to mist, the fingers stiffen, and the sound of footsteps changes, softer, muted by snow or mud.
Inside the small homes, fire becomes a quiet companion. Logs burn slowly, never enough to warm the whole room, but enough to make the air just bearable. You sit close to the flames, hands extended, turning them over and over to keep the numbness away. The walls breathe cold, the roof drips where the snow melts through the thatch. Every sound carries the crack of frozen branches, the distant howl of wind slipping between stone walls, the murmur of voices speaking softly to pass the time. In winter, work continues. There are animals to feed, wood to gather, repairs to make. The ground may be frozen, but life does not pause. The body learns to move through the cold as through another layer of clothing. Your breath rises in clouds before your face. Your cheeks sting with frost. Wool grows heavy with damp, and the smell of smoke clings stronger than ever. At night, the temperature falls so low that water in the buckets turns to ice. You break it in the morning with the handle of a spoon or the flat side of an axe. The sound is sharp and satisfying, proof that the day has begun again. Sleep in winter is shallow. Cold seeps through everything, even dreams. You curl close to others under the same blanket, sharing warmth like animals in a barn. Sometimes you wake and listen to the crackle of embers, to the wind pressing against the walls, to the faint bleat of a sheep outside. It is the kind of silence that holds weight, heavy but familiar. You close your eyes again and wait for morning. When spring comes, it does not announce itself. It slips in quietly with the drip of thawed water from the eaves and the smell of wet soil rising from the ground. Snow becomes mud, and the fields open again to light. For a brief time, the world feels new. Shoots of green break through the brown, birds return, and the sound of the stream grows stronger. People move differently, faster, lighter, grateful for the change. But the relief does not last long. Soon the fields demand attention and the labor begins again. The days stretch longer, the sun higher, the body busier. Then comes summer, where winter punishes with cold, summer punishes with heat. The air turns thick and slow. The sky stays pale and cloudless for days, sometimes for weeks. The ground hardens, the grass yellows, the streams shrink. Dust rises with every step. You feel the weight of the sun on your shoulders from morning until dusk. The wool tunic grows damp with sweat, heavy against the skin. Flies gather around the animals and around the people alike. The air hums with their presence. The smell of life intensifies, strong, constant, inescapable.
There is no escape, only endurance.
When the heat grows too much, you rest beneath the shade of a tree, drink what you can, and wait for the sun to soften. But even shade carries its own discomfort. The itch of insects, the closeness of air. The river offers the promise of coolness, but few dare to bathe. They say bathing invites sickness. The old ones speak of fevers that follow washing, of chills that take hold after a plunge in cold water.
And so the body keeps its dirt as protection.
Sweat dries into the fabric of your clothes. Dust becomes part of your skin.
It is not filth, but armor.
Water, once pure, has long become dangerous. Streams that once ran clear now carry the waste of the village. The same water that cleans the hands also carries sickness to the mouth. People have learned not to trust it. They boil it when they can, or they turn instead to beer. Weak, familiar, and safe. Every home brews its own. The process fills the air with the smell of barley and yeast, comforting in its simplicity. Children drink it as easily as the elders. It quenches thirst, soothes hunger, and keeps the fever away. A small barrel in the corner of the house holds the family's supply, precious as firewood in the winter. When it rains, people lift their faces to the sky. Rain is a gift, though it arrives without kindness. The roof leaks, the road floods, the fields become rivers of mud, but still it means the crops will live.
You walk home soaked, clothes clinging, boots filled with water, but the heart feels lighter knowing that the earth is fed.
The smell of rain on soil is rich and deep, the scent of everything growing again. Autumn arrives slowly, the light changing before the air does. Days shorten, winds turn colder, and the leaves lose their green. You gather what the land has given. Grain, turnips, apples, onions. The harvest fills the barns and the cellars, enough to survive the coming winter. The fields turn bare once more, the soil resting under its blanket of frost. You watch the last of the birds disappear into the grey horizon. The world prepares itself for sleep again. Through every season, water and weather rule life. They shape each action, each decision, each breath. The sun decides when you wake. The dark decides when you sleep. The rain decides whether you eat. The frost decides whether you live. There are no choices, only responses. To heat, to cold, to drought, to flood. The body learns to bend with them to survive within their moods. Evening comes differently in every season, but always it arrives with certainty. In winter, it brings frost that settles on the rooftops and on your breath. In summer, it brings flies and the restless hum of insects that never sleep. The light fades slowly over the fields, turning gold, then grey, then blue. The air cools, the sounds soften. and the village gathers around its fires. You sit by the hearth, feeling the warmth seep into your legs, listening to the quiet voices of those around you. Outside, the wind moves through the trees, a steady whisper that marks the end of another day. Each breath feels earned. You have faced the heat, the cold, the hunger, the damp. You have lifted, carried, dug, and endured. Now the body can rest. You stretch your hands toward the fading firelight. The skin is rough, the nails dark, the lines deep, but they are hands that have done what they were made to do.
Hands that have held tools, touched earth, broken bread, poured water, and lived.
As night deepens, you hear the distant drip of rain from the roof. Somewhere outside, an animal stirs in the straw. The air smells of smoke, damp wool, and soil cooling under the stars. You lie down on the straw bed, wrap the blanket tight, and listen. The world breathes slowly around you. The walls creak, the wind hums, the fire sighs its last breath. You think briefly of tomorrow, of the cold that will return, or the sun that will rise, and then you let the thought drift away. The seasons will come again, as they always have. Winter will freeze the rivers.
Summer will burn the skin.
The rain will cleanse and poison in equal measure. And through it all, life will continue, quiet, patient, enduring. You fall asleep knowing that nothing will change, and somehow that feels like peace. The Red Queen of Palanque. The jungle breathes before dawn. Mist rises from the trees like incense, wrapping the ancient stones of Palanque in a silver veil. Birds stir among the branches, and somewhere far below, water moves through the ruins. Slow, constant, eternal. For centuries, the city slept beneath the vines, its temples swallowed by green silence. The Maya who built it had long vanished, their names carried away by wind and rain. It is 1994. The modern world hums with electricity, but here, inside the forest of Chiapas, time still moves like smoke. Soft, slow, without direction. Archaeologists climb the steep steps of the Temple of the Inscriptions, carrying brushes, notebooks, and quiet curiosity. They do not know what they will find. They only know that the earth is ready to reveal something. At the base of a smaller structure near the Great Temple, a narrow passage is discovered, sealed for more than 1,000 years. The air that escapes is heavy and old, thick with dust the color of iron. Stone walls close in tightly, carved with faint lines of ancient hands. The archaeologists move carefully, brushing, clearing, listening. Their footsteps echo in the hollow chamber like slow heartbeats. At the end of the passage lies a great stone door, untouched since the age of kings. It takes hours to shift it aside. Behind it, darkness waits. Deep, quiet, complete. When the first beam of light enters, it touches something unexpected. A shimmer of red. The chamber opens like a dream. Every surface glows with the color of life and death. Red cinnabar dust, fine as smoke, coating the walls, the floor, the coffin itself. At the center rests a sarcophagus carved from limestone, its lid painted the same deep red, the hue of blood and sunrise. Inside lies a woman. Her bones are fragile, but her presence fills the room with calm authority. She is surrounded by offerings, jade beads, seashells, carved bones, and obsidian blades. Fragments of a crown lie near her head. Small ornaments glint faintly under the light. Her face is covered by a mosaic mask of jade, the stone cool and luminous even after centuries in the dark. Each piece fits perfectly, a puzzle of devotion and artistry. Through the tiny gaps between the stones, the shape of her features endures, serene, eternal. There is no name carved, no inscription, no written record of who she was. No title, no date, no prayer, only color, silence, and reverence. The red powder that covers her body stains the air. It is cinnabar, mercury sulfide, deadly to breathe, yet sacred to the Maya. It symbolized the blood of the gods, the promise of rebirth, the energy of the sun. To be buried in red was to sleep within the heart of creation itself. The archaeologists call her La Reina Roja, the Red Queen. It is not her name, but a gift of recognition. In the absence of words, she receives a title born of awe. The red powder marks her as important, the jade as eternal. Her tomb lies near that of King Pakal the Great, the ruler who built Palank's grandest monuments. Perhaps she was his wife. Perhaps his mother, perhaps a ruler in her own right. No one can say for certain. The mystery remains her crown. Outside the temple, the jungle hums. Insects sing, unseen birds call, rain falls in gentle sheets. Inside, the Red Queen rests, her silence louder than any history book. She has slept for more than a millennium, yet her presence feels awake, calm, observing, unhurried. Archaeologists kneel beside the sarcophagus. They take small samples of the dust, sketch the layout of the tomb, measure each artifact with care. There is reverence in every motion, a quiet respect that turns excavation into ritual. Gloved hands brush the jade beads clean, revealing the soft gleam beneath the red. Each piece carries the memory of touch, of artisans shaping stone with patience and belief. Days turn into weeks. The jungle never stops watching. Sunlight filters through the canopy, painting moving patterns on the ancient walls. When the workers leave at dusk, bats fly in their place, tracing the same paths through the air. The temple remains alive, breathing through every crack and root. In time, scientists analyze the remains. They find traces of cinnabar deep within the bones, proof of how thoroughly the body had been covered. The toxic powder preserved her in silence, protecting her from decay and from the intrusion of time. The study suggests she was in her 30s or 40s, healthy, strong, adorned with the finest materials. Her skull bears no sign of injury. Her bones tell of a life well nourished, one of status, of importance. Still the question lingers. Who was she? Some believe she was Tsakbu Ajal, the queen consort of Pakal the Great, his wife, his partner in rule. Others think she was his mother, Lady Sak Kuk, who once held the throne in his youth. A few even whisper that she might have been a ruler herself, one whose name was erased, whose memory was hidden deliberately. The tomb offers no answer. It gives only fragments, symbols of power, without the language to explain them. The Maya built Palanque with balance between science and spirit. Every structure, every stairway, every inscription followed celestial order. The Red Queen's tomb continues that pattern. A resting place aligned with the stars, sealed beneath layers of ritual. To enter it is to step into the geometry of belief. The walls are not decoration, they are dialogue with the cosmos. The red powder, the jade, the shells, each represents an element of life. Blood, breath, water, stone. Together they form a story written without words. At dusk, when the archaeologists leave and the jungle reclaims its quiet, the temple seems to sigh. Mist settles again, and the air thickens with the scent of earth. The Red Queen lies unchanged, her mask reflecting faint light like a distant star. She does not need a name. Her stillness is her story. Echoes of life and ritual. In the ancient world of the Maya, life was a rhythm of balance between creation and destruction, between gods and humans, between power and humility. The people of Palenque understood time not as a line, but as a circle. The Red Queen's tomb honors that circle. She was not buried to end, but to continue, her spirit joining the eternal cycle of renewal. Cinnabar was chosen for that reason. Its red color mirrored the lifeblood of both humans and deities.
To the Maya, red was not only death, but transformation.
When they covered her in that dust, they did not mourn. They ensured her passage into the next world. The scent of the mineral, sharp and metallic, filled the air like incense. The people who prepared her body would have moved slowly, their gestures deliberate, their prayers low and rhythmic. They placed jade in her mouth, a breath for the afterlife. They placed shells near her hands, symbols of the sea, of movement, of endless flow. Then they sealed the chamber, leaving her to the care of the earth. For centuries, no one spoke her name.
The jungle covered everything.
Roots curled around stone, rain softened inscriptions, time erased footsteps, but not memory, not completely. The Maya said that the soul never dies, it merely changes its form. Perhaps she watched as the forest grew over her city, as birds nested in her temples, as explorers stumbled through vines, searching for what was lost. Perhaps she waited, patiently, until someone would open the door again and let light return. When her tomb was found, it was not destruction. It was remembrance. The Red Queen returned to the world not as a body, but as a question, a quiet invitation to wonder. The balance of power. The world she ruled, or perhaps served, was one of art and order. Palenque was not a city of war, but of knowledge. Its rulers saw themselves as mediators between the divine and the human. Architecture reflected astronomy, rituals reflected mathematics. The temples were calendars carved in stone. Every surface spoke of time, and every act of governance was also an act of faith. If the Red Queen shared that rule, she would have known both ceremony and solitude. The crown was not freedom, it was responsibility written in jade and blood. Every decision carried cosmic weight. Every ritual sustained the world's balance. Her life, like her death, was part of that endless equation. She may have stood beside King Pakal during the great festivals, her face painted red, her arms adorned with beads that caught the sunlight. She may have blessed the crops, watched the stars, listened to the priests recite the sacred calendars. And when the moon disappeared in eclipse, she would have joined the prayers that asked the heavens to return its light. That is how power worked in Palanque. Through harmony, through ritual, through endurance. Even in death, she remained within that order. The cinnabar dust preserved not only her body, but her role in the story of the sun. The return of silence. Today, the tomb remains quiet again. Tourists visit the site, their footsteps light against the stone, their voices hushed by instinct.
They look down through glass panels at the sarcophagus, now protected, the red dust undisturbed.
The air feels heavy, not oppressive, but sacred, as though time itself hesitates here. Scientists continue to study her bones, her mask, her jewelry. Each discovery adds a word to the unwritten biography of the Red Queen. Yet for every answer, new questions bloom. Why no inscription? Why such wealth? Why such silence? Perhaps the silence is the answer. Some lives are meant to be felt, not explained. At night, when the jungle cools and the stars appear above the ruins, the temple glows faintly under the moon. Wind passes through the trees like distant chanting. The insect's chorus becomes a rhythm older than language. Some say you can almost hear her breathing, not the breath of the body, but of memory. The Red Queen sleeps, but her silence speaks in the language of eternity. She has no need for monuments beyond her tomb. Her story exists in color and stillness. The red dust, the green jade, the white stone, together they form a poem of existence, written not in words, but in essence. The Maya believed that to die was to return to the heart of the universe. In that belief, the Red Queen never truly left. She became part of the cycle she once ruled, part of the rhythm that connects jungle, sky, and soul. Eternal rest. In the quiet of the Chiapas forest, the tomb remains a heartbeat beneath the earth. Roots reach down like gentle fingers, touching the stone above her resting place. Rain falls softly, feeding the moss that grows over the steps. Every sound, the drip of water, the cry of a bird, the sigh of wind, seems to move in harmony with her sleep. More than 1,000 years have passed, yet her presence endures. Not as a ghost, not as a legend, but as a whisper of the human desire to be remembered. We still speak her title, the Red Queen of Palanque. And in that name, she continues to live.
She is both known and unknown.
Both past and present, both silence and song. Her mystery has no need for resolution. It exists so that we may remember how much beauty can rest within what is unsolved. The Red Queen sleeps in her chamber of stone beneath the jungle that hums her lullaby. The cinnabar glows faintly under the lamplight. The jade shines green against the red. No inscription marks her name, yet the world remembers her still. Not for conquest, not for rule, but for the quiet perfection of mystery, the kind that endures beyond time. And somewhere between the beating of the rain and the stillness of the earth, she continues to breathe through history itself. A queen without name, a woman of color and silence, resting forever in the heart of Palanque. Frida Kahlo. The story begins in color. a blue so deep it seems to hum. A house in Coyoacan, at the edge of Mexico City, where the air carries the scent of dust, fruit, and sunlight. It is 1907, and the century is still young. Inside the courtyard of La Casa Azul, the Blue House, a child is born.
Her name is Magdalena Carmen Frida Kahlo y Calderón.
But the world will one day know her simply as Frida. The walls of the house are painted the color of sky and river, of memory and belonging. Within them lives a girl with eyes that miss nothing, not the movement of clouds, not the songs of vendors in the street, not the tiny cracks in the clay floor. Frida grows among flowers, paint, and laughter. Her father, Guillermo, is a photographer, serious, methodical, often silent. Her mother, Matilda, is devout, practical, rooted in tradition. The home is alive with contrasts, the sacred and the earthly, the strict and the free. Frida is bold from the beginning. She climbs trees, races through the garden, and laughs at danger. But when she is 6 years old, a shadow enters her life. Polio, quiet and invisible, settles into her leg. For months, she is kept in bed while the other children play outside. When she rises again, her right leg is thinner, weaker, changed. Yet her spirit is not. She walks with a limp, but also with a defiance that seems to grow as she does. Her father, who knows endurance, encourages her. He takes her on long walks, teaches her about photography, about light and stillness. From him, she learns patience and precision. From her mother, she learns prayer, survival, and silence. From herself, she learns resistance. Years pass, and Mexico changes around her. Revolution reshapes the nation. Songs of rebellion drift through the streets.
The air fills with the promise of something new, a country reclaiming its soul. Frida watches, listens, remembers.
She studies at the National Preparatory School, one of the few girls allowed there. She is brilliant, mischievous, unafraid to challenge teachers or tease friends. She reads philosophy and biology, sketches in her notebooks, and wears long skirts of Tehuana fabric that later become her signature. She dreams not of painting, but of medicine. She wants to understand the human body, to heal it, but life has its own brushstrokes. One afternoon in 1925, the bus she is riding collides with a streetcar. Metal shatters, wood splinters, the world collapses in a burst of noise. When it stills, Frida lies broken, her spine fractured, her pelvis crushed, her leg pierced. Time slows to a whisper. In that instant, everything she imagined for her life changes. Months pass in a hospital bed. Plaster and pain become her new landscape. Her body, once restless and alive, is now a cage. Yet within that stillness, something awakens. Her father gives her paints and brushes. A carpenter builds an easel that can rest across her lap. Above her bed, a mirror is fixed to the canopy so that she can see herself. She begins to paint, not to pass time, but to survive it. Her reflection becomes her subject, her confessor, her only witness. Each brush stroke is both question and answer. She paints what she sees and what she feels, and what cannot be said in words. Pain becomes color. Loneliness becomes form. Her world, confined to a bed, expands through imagination. When she finally walks again, it is with a corset of steel and leather holding her body upright. But her hands are free and her will is stronger than before. She paints portraits of friends, of family, of the dreams that visit her in sleep. Her colors are vivid, reds like heartbeats, greens like new leaves, yellows like sunlight over stone. Every canvas becomes a diary. In 1928, she meets the man who will become both her companion and her mirror in art, Diego Rivera. He is already famous, already enormous in presence, a muralist whose works cover the walls of Mexico with stories of labor and revolution. She shows him her paintings, uncertain but proud. He studies them silently, then tells her to keep painting, that her work is honest, fierce, necessary. They marry the following year, and
He is 42.
she is 22. It is not a quiet union. He is as vast as the murals he creates, she as precise as the small canvases she fills. Together they become legend, the elephant and the dove, as some call them.
But legends are not peaceful.
They argue, love, separate, return, forgive, and begin again. Through it all, Frida paints. She paints herself as she feels, fractured, bleeding, proud. She paints her body as battlefield and garden, as symbol and truth. Her work is not decoration, it is confession. Every image carries the echo of pain, but also the defiance of beauty. She paints not to escape suffering, but to make it visible, to give it color and dignity. In the blue house, life grows around her.
Monkeys climb across the walls.
Dogs sleep beneath the tables, parrots squawk in the trees. The rooms smell of turpentine, earth, and fruit. Visitors come from everywhere, poets, politicians, artists. There is music, laughter, smoke, debate. The air vibrates with life, even as her body weakens. Illness never leaves her. Operations multiply. Casts return.
Sometimes she paints from a wheelchair, sometimes from her bed.
Her hands shake, but her colors never fade. She paints with fury and tenderness, with the certainty that what she creates must outlast her. Her paintings grow smaller, more intimate, each one a window into her private landscape. She paints herself holding her own heart, her body pierced with nails, her spine replaced by a shattered column. She paints pain as devotion, and devotion as endurance. In her portraits, the eyes are steady, unflinching. They meet the viewer with quiet challenge. This is my truth. Diego travels, paints, falls in and out of love. Frida loves him still, though she knows he cannot belong to anyone completely. She writes him letters filled with longing, humor, and sharp clarity.
She signs them to Frida, your Frida, but also Frida who adores herself enough to keep going.
The world begins to notice her art. In the 1930s and 40s, her works are shown in Mexico, New York, Paris. André Breton, the French surrealist, calls her a natural surrealist, though she insists she paints only her own reality. In Paris, her paintings hang beside those of Picasso and Duchamp. Yet she feels more at home in her garden in Coyoacán than in any gallery. She misses the sound of roosters, the taste of chili, the smell of rain on dust. Her home is her center, her sanctuary, and her stage. War spreads across the world. Politics shift. Frida and Diego welcome refugees and revolutionaries alike. Their house becomes a crossroads of ideas, arguments, and art. She listens, laughs, paints, and survives. Always she survives.
Her health declines again.
Her spine deteriorates, her right leg darkens from infection. Still she paints, her canvas is smaller but more intense. One of her last works shows 2 ripe watermelons sliced open, their red flesh glistening under the words "Viva la vida," long live life. It is both farewell and celebration. Even at the edge of death, she paints joy. In 1954, at the age of 47, Frida Kahlo dies in her beloved blue house. Her coffin is placed in the center of the courtyard, surrounded by flowers and color. Thousands come to say goodbye. Diego stands silently beside her, unable to imagine a world without her voice, her laughter, her fire. The house remains, the walls stay blue, the rooms hold the scent of paint and time. Her brushes rest beside her wheelchair, her corsets hang like sculpture, her dresses still whisper when the wind moves through the window. Her presence lingers in every color. After the silence, Frida Kahlo did not paint dreams, she painted existence. She turned pain into geometry, sorrow into rhythm, the body into landscape. Each canvas was a heartbeat, each stroke a breath. In the years after her death, the world begins to see what she saw. Her art travels across oceans, enters museums, homes and hearts. The Blue House becomes a museum, not of tragedy, but of presence. Visitors walk through her rooms quietly, as if entering a prayer. The mirror above her bed still reflects the ceiling. The easel still waits for paint. The air feels alive, as though she has only stepped into another room. Her self-portraits watch from the walls. 43 of them, each one a conversation with pain and identity. In them she is never fragile. Even in suffering she is composed, radiant, centered. She paints her own eyebrows as wings, her heart as flame, her body as earth. She does not ask for pity. She demands to be seen. Time has softened her story into symbol. To some, she is a saint of resiliency. To others, a feminist icon. To others, still a painter of truth. Someone who dared to say, "This is my body. This is my life. This is what it means to be alive inside pain." But beyond all labels, she remains what she always was. Human, stubborn, luminous. Her paintings breathe because they were made from breath. They hold sadness, but also humor. They contain wounds, but also warmth. They are not about suffering. They are about survival. Frida's Mexico lives through her. Its colors, cobalt blue, burnt orange, sunflower yellow, became the language of her soul. She carried the history of her land in her skirts, the spirit of her people in her brush. Her art was both deeply personal and deeply national, a bridge between her body and her country. The Blue House stands still on the corner of Londres Street in Coyoacán. Every morning, light falls across the courtyard, just as it did a century ago. The parrots call from the trees, the cacti lean toward the sun, and visitors walk slowly through rooms filled with color. They see her bed, her wheelchair, her paint box. They look at the mirror above her and understand that every masterpiece she made began there, with the simple act of facing herself. The mirror reflects nothing now and yet everything. It reflects the courage to see, to feel, to remain. Frida once said, "I paint flowers so they will not die." And in painting herself, she made sure that she too would never fade. Her legacy is not bound to galleries or fame. It lives wherever someone transforms pain into creation, wherever someone chooses to turn suffering into song silence into color. She belongs to all who continue despite the wound. In the quiet hours of night, when the blue house sleeps, the walls still hold her laughter. The air still remembers her brush moving slowly across canvas. The echo of her footsteps lingers in the tiles. She is gone, yet not gone. Her paintings remain, alive, defiant, filled with breath. Frida Kahlo once wrote, "I hope the exit is joyful, and I hope never to return." But her spirit never truly left. It lives in every vivid line, in every defiant color, in every gaze that refuses to look away. And if you stand still long enough before her work, you may feel what she felt. That even in pain, beauty persists, and that the human soul, however fragile, is endless in its power to create. Legacy and sleep. History does not end, it only softens. It moves quietly through time, brushing across centuries like wind through tall grass. What was once thunder becomes whisper, what was once war becomes dust, and what was once life becomes story. Somewhere far back in the folds of memory, peasants wake before dawn. They step into the cold air of the Middle Ages, their breath pale against the dark. They move slowly, not because they wish to, but because life moves slowly for them. They carry buckets, bread, the weight of another day. Their world is small, but within it, every sound, the toll of a bell, the cry of a rooster, feels infinite. They do not know they are part of history. They only know that morning has come and that it is enough. Above them, a church bell echoes through the mist. It calls for prayer, for labor, for continuity. In that sound, the rhythm of humanity is set. Work, rest, rise, repeat. For them, the world does not promise joy, it promises endurance. And in their endurance, they leave behind something sacred, the quiet proof that life continues even when unseen. Centuries turn, stone crumbles, empires shift,
and far from those fields, a palace rises beneath northern skies.
The year is 1729 in the small Prussian town of Stettin. A child named Sophie takes her first breath. Her cradle rocks in candlelight, her destiny already written by others. She will one day become Catherine, the ruler of a vast empire. Where the peasants once bowed to survival, Catherine learns to bow to power. Her world is not mud and frost, but mirrors and marble, yet her burden is the same: to endure, to lead, to continue. In her study, she reads by lamplight, the glow soft against her face. She writes letters that cross oceans of thought about reason, art, and the nature of rule. Her crown is heavy, but her mind is awake. When she speaks, the world listens. When she dies, the empire remembers. But even she, the empress, is bound by time. Her hand, once steady on the scepter, falls still. The halls of her palaces grow quiet. Only the sound of pages turning remains, her words echoing beyond her body, her legacy breathing where she no longer can. History moves again. It shifts south into the heat and breath of the jungle. The year is uncertain, perhaps 700, perhaps 750, long before the birth of Catherine, long before the memory of Europe itself. In the deep green heart of Chiapas, a red tomb sleeps beneath the temple of the inscriptions. 1,000 years later, when it is found, the air that escapes from it smells of time. Inside lies a woman covered in red cinnabar dust. Her bones are delicate, her mask made of jade. No name carved, no record left. She is called only the Red Queen of Palanque. She lies near the tomb of King Pakal, perhaps his wife, perhaps his mother, perhaps a ruler herself. The archaeologists who uncover her step softly, whispering as though she might still hear. The red dust clings to their skin. It is the color of life and death at once, blood, earth, rebirth.
She has slept for 1,000 years, but her silence is not emptiness.
It is presence. It says, I lived. I was here. I remain. The jungle outside breathes in rhythm with her rest. Birds call, rain falls, roots dig slowly through the stone above her. The Red Queen does not stir. She has nothing left to prove. Her kingdom has fallen, her people gone, but her mystery endures. Her namelessness now her crown.
Time folds again, and the world turns west.
The jungle fades, the air grows dry, then blooms with the colors of Coyoacan. It is 1907, and another woman is born. A girl in a blue house filled with laughter and light. Frida Kahlo opens her eyes to color. She breathes in the scent of paint, soil, and salt. Her father teaches her to see. Her mother teaches her to bear. When illness takes her leg, she learns balance. When accident takes her body, she learns expression. Confined to bed, she lifts a brush, and the world begins again. Not outside her, but within. In her mirror, she finds herself. In her reflection, she finds the universe. Each stroke of color becomes a heartbeat, each painting a fragment of endurance. She paints herself as she feels, wounded but radiant, fragile but fierce. Her pain becomes her palette, her body becomes her temple. And from that temple, she builds eternity. When Frida meets Diego Rivera, their lives become a mural. Passion, argument, devotion, return. They orbit each other like two stars, colliding and rejoining, each feeding the other's fire. Through every illness, every betrayal, she paints. Even as her bones fracture, even as her lungs strain, she creates. Her canvases grow smaller, but her truth expands beyond them. In the final years of her life, the blue house remains her world. The walls bright and breathing, the courtyard alive with parrots, monkeys, cacti. She paints from her bed surrounded by color. The mirror still hangs above her. The world outside moves quickly. Wars, governments, noise. But inside her room, time slows to a single pulse. Paint, breathe, exist. When she dies in 1954, the courtyard fills with flowers. The color she once held inside spills into the world. Her name becomes legend, her image symbol. But beyond the myths, she remains what she always was, human. A woman who turned pain into creation, who turned her own body into art. Her paintings remain alive, speaking softly through every color she left behind. Now the centuries gather like mist. The peasants, the empress, the queen, the artist, all different, all the same. Each born into duty, each shaped by pain, each transformed by endurance. Their worlds never touched, yet their stories form a single thread through time. In the silence between their centuries, history exhales. The noise of conquest and revolution fades. The voices of kings and soldiers dim. What remains are the small, steady sounds. The brush of cloth, the scratch of a pen, the hum of a heart continuing despite the world. The peasants of the Middle Ages still walk in memory, their hands rough, their backs bent, their faith unbroken. Catherine still writes by candlelight, her words glowing in the dark. The Red Queen still sleeps in her temple of stone, her mask shining beneath layers of time. Frida still paints in the blue house, her reflection caught forever in her own eyes.
Each life is a ripple.
Each ripple becomes a wave, each wave a sea, and that sea is history. Vast, eternal, moving in quiet circles. If you listen closely, you can hear it now. The footsteps in mud, the scratch of quill on parchment, the whisper of prayer in stone halls,
the slow drip of rain on limestone,
the breath of a woman painting in her bed.
All of it, one long heartbeat.
And now the stories grow still. The centuries settle like dust on a forgotten book. The bells have stopped ringing, the empires have stopped expanding. The brush has left the canvas. The tomb is closed, the house is quiet. It is night again. The world rests just as you do now.
The same stars that watched over peasants and queens now shine above you.
Their light is the same light, ancient, patient, eternal. Breathe slowly. Feel the air move through time, through space, through every story that came before yours. You are part of this history too. Your breath joins theirs. Your heartbeat echoes the rhythm of every life that endured, created, and loved. Let the past drift away now. Let the centuries fold themselves gently behind your eyes. There is nothing more to carry. The weight of history is not yours to hold. It will continue as it always has, without needing your effort.
You are safe here, surrounded by quiet history.
You are wrapped in the same peace that holds the world when it sleeps. The peace of stillness after movement, of silence after song. Somewhere the peasants rest. Catherine's candle burns low. The Red Queen's tomb breathes softly beneath stone. Frida's brush dries in the night air. And you rest among them, a single dream in the endless dream of time. Close your eyes. The past will keep itself. The stories will not fade. They will wait. All that is needed now is breath. Steady, gentle, alive, let the world grow distant. Let the air grow soft. You are safe, warm, and held within the tapestry of every life that came before. The night deepens, the pulse of time slows. History turns its pages, and one more moment passes quietly into forever. Sleep well. You belong to the stillness now. And the stillness, vast, kind, infinite, belongs to you.